Horror till New Year's. I went off tempo. Hey everybody, I'm Phillip.
And I'm Justin.
And together, we're Pajamas. And we just finished watching Knock at the Cabin, the newest one from M. Night Shyamalan. And, as always, from here on, spoilers. So if you haven't seen it yet, and you want to, go check it out, then come back. Well, unless you don't care, or have seen it, then stick around. So what did you think?
I understand why the ratings are so low.
Oh, do tell.
Well, I do like it that it does have this aura of mystery. It adds to the uncertainty when any film is being seen, that not everything needs to be explained.
Yeah.
But one very central theme is why the sacrifice of this one particular person and not simply any other person. Also, why didn't they get the visions if these visions were so important?
Maybe if they had had the visions, they wouldn't have showed up to the cabin in the first place. Maybe. Or maybe it's like, since they were kind of revealed to be the four horsemen, then maybe the visions were just meant for them.
But if you're going to be the person that somehow being sacrificed will make the world not come to an end, which, by the way, the film never explains how a sacrifice of one person somehow makes the lightning go away for the planes to stop falling down.
Right.
What I don't like about it is that it's too disconnected, and the problem with that is that it's the central part of the plot, but it isn't as connected. There's too much of a disconnection between the central plot and its association with everything that's happening around it.
Right.
So, sort of like a web, but some strings broken.
Okay.
That's my problem with it. They never explained why.
But do you think they needed to? Because I think it being esoteric kind of lended itself to the what is actually going on and why is this actually happening. Like I don't know if it necessarily needed to explain every single thing.
Oh, it didn't need to. It only needed to explain why this particular couple and not simply any other family. After all, why did they end up being the ones to even be there? If another family had been in that cabin, would there have been a different story? Or would it have been the same?
I think it would have been the same.
Exactly. So why this particular?
I think it's just I think they were chosen simply because they happened to be the people at that cabin. I think the bigger burning question is, what are the odds that it was O'Bannon, the guy that attacked him in the bar? Like,
yes, that was interesting.
I did like that because it lent itself to the maybe this is all his plan. Like,
indeed, especially since the first two incidents, they happened before they even arrived at the cabin.
Yeah.
Which gives a sort of destiny quality to it that maybe you were simply given these visions so that you would have some time to prepare. Consider them a gift.
You're welcome.
And is there any way that you can change the future? Well, if it's predetermined, no, but try to look surprised so that people will be less suspicious.
Yeah. I didn't mind it as much as you did. I think for a Shyamalan movie, it was actually not bad. He's done worse. I think the biggest problem in his movies is just a lot of the dialogue. It sounds so just, this isn't how people talk. Not all the time. But there was a few moments here and there where I was like, you can tell it's Shyamalan writing it. Because I had like 2 or 3 screenwriters on the screen credited. I was like, you can kind of tell the parts of the screenplay that are his writing, just because he writes his characters how he thinks people should speak, and it's like, no, write the characters how they would speak if they were this character.
Maybe they are if he were in this position. Maybe that's how he speaks.
That's the problem. He writes people how he speaks. It's very much like when I would complain about wrestling, when Vince McMahon was in charge of everything. He writes everyone the same because he writes how he would speak. And everyone ends up sounding the same, and it doesn't sound like them speaking. It's them having to like memorize like a wall of text that he wrote for them in his voice in his head. So it was like, it's been a complaint of mine for years. That's kind of what Shyamalan reminds me of on a much smaller level, because it's not like all the time, but you can just tell the parts of the script, I think. Like, I think I could watch this movie again, edit out the parts that were dialogue, and then somehow be like, can you show me the script, please? And who wrote what? And put it like different colors, and I could like match up like, oh, blue is Shyamalan. Oh, there it matches. I think I think I could legitimately do that. Because he has such an awkward way of making people talk sometimes, but not all the time. Not all the time. It's really bad when he's a sole screenwriter. But again, I know he could have written all the dialogue for all I know. People could have came in and helped him with the pacing or stuff. I don't know. I don't know how that went down. There's just a lot of like, I didn't mind it as much as I said. There was just a lot of like, but to the movie. Actually, like, this stuff happened before you got here, though. Like, humanity is doomed now. I will kill myself. But it's already happened. It's
Exactly.
How is it being doomed if, like, you killing yourself didn't make it not happen? And
Indeed.
like, shouldn't have happened after you killed yourself? Like, humanity is doomed. What about the people that died before you killed yourself? What about them?
Exactly. The disconnection.
Yeah. So that's probably my biggest issue. And someone out there could probably explain it. Maybe they got it in a way we didn't.
It actually shows that if this thing actually made things better, I would have to say that then the world is based on injustice.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah.
And if that's the case, then is it really a world worth saving?
Oh, yeah. If you were listening and you did not watch and you don't want to watch this movie, basically this couple with her adopted daughter goes to this cabin and they get 4 intruders who come in and tell them that one of them has to sacrifice themselves to stop the apocalypse. And then it goes from there. And if they don't, the world will be like in darkness and flames, and it will just be them 3 wandering the earth forever. I'm like, sorry, y'all.
Free food.
Yeah. Sorry, y'all. Like, the world sucks. And I think I just think like, the world sucks. I think having a gay couple was the right choice for the movie just because on the idea of, is it worth saving? Like, we can identify with that. We can identify with being singled out and targeted and
Indeed.
treated a certain way, I've told you the stories of me being beaten up.
Indeed.
For who I am and, for how I was born. And I think that did a good job of resonating with me. Because oftentimes it's always the man and woman together and then they have to make the decision. It's still very, heartbreaking and heart-wrenching and just like, oh, this sucks. But we can never put ourselves in their shoes because it's not us. It's not our story. This felt like it could be our story. We could have an adopted daughter and go to a cabin in the woods on a little vacation, and then this like the whole time, like this could actually happen. Like it was refreshing. I think that's why I don't dislike it as much because it was refreshing to see a movie that we could put ourselves into legitimately and have a connection to the characters, and not just because they were gay, but because of their experiences in being gay, and being picked on because you're talking too loud, or because someone else has a problem with you, but that's their problem. It's not your problem. It's not my fault you have a problem. Your problem is your problem. You deal with that problem. Don't take it out on me. Figure yourself out and then come talk to me. Or don't. Go away. So, is it incredibly selfish of me? Yeah. But I'm sorry, the world can burn. Me and you can walk the world for eternity. Just me and you.
Rent-free?
Yeah. All kinds of rent-free, bigot-free, asshole-free. Yeah. So I wrote my notes. So I was like, sorry, y'all. I'm choosing Justin, and it means like 7 billion people will die. Oh, okay. When he said like they don't deserve it, they hate us. I'm like, yes. I know it makes me sound like a monster, but at the same time, I'm just like I've said in other things. I've said many times how humanity is just a plague. And if I have the chance to eradicate that plague and have like essentially immortality with you, that's an easy question to answer. I would have sat there for all that time, not said a thing. I just would look at you, nodded. They could tell their speeches. They could tell me where they came from. Like,
I'm afraid that, well, all of this could be coincidence. The only way that we could be convinced is if, well, I suppose if we had the same visions that they had. But
yeah.
But they didn't.
I'm glad they touched on the things like, you're crazy. It's You're in an echo chamber. You're in a doomsday cult. Like,
And yes, these things do happen, and
yes.
they do make people think these things.
So I think the movie did a good job at still placing that doubt throughout the movie. You know, even I even wrote in my notes. I was like, this could all be pre-recorded. This could all be a feed. And then they said it. I'm like, yes, thank you. I'm like, this sounds like they got onto the computer and all, like, oh yeah, it's like suggestibility is very, very powerful, and they brought it up. Like, yes, and he's like, you guys met in the message board, yes. So I think the movie did a good job of bringing up what I would have said.
Yes, it wasn't too biased to the people with the visions.
Yes, yes. The narrative was pretty balanced, I thought, in that respect, which I appreciated. And I thought the movie did a good job of weaving the narrative of the struggles of being a gay couple, you know, with her daughter. And I think it just made, I think personally, and obviously I'm speaking from a place of like bias, and how often do we get to do that, you know, in mainstream media. To me, the way they wrote the story with this couple enriched the story.
And the way that they were reacting was actually quite realistic because, well, let's face it, like you implied earlier, if something happens to you, then I would be devastated. But if somebody that I had no idea even existed, something happened to that person, I'm afraid that I'm not going to feel much because that person didn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
Didn't have any sort of direct influence on my life, and thus someone saying, I need to kill you because if I don't, then this so-and-so in this faraway place will die from falling into a pit or something.
Yeah.
And well, I'd have to say, no. And by the way, why are you telling me this? Tell the person over there to watch where they're going. So it isn't so much selfish as it's, well, reasonably subjective.
Yes.
Of the value that you put into different people in your lives.
Exactly. Yeah. I've never shied away from the fact that I am very jaded. And I freely admit that based on my life experiences. I don't have much stock in humanity as a whole, but their methodology would have done nothing for me or to me. And if I find out that the person that attacked me in the bar just so happens to be the same guy, okay. Now, in the end, if I'm proven wrong, which I would have been, and the apocalypse, quote unquote, comes, because you're also talking to somebody who doesn't subscribe to any religious belief, to believe in some kind of God's fingers are going to come down. Well, what kind of God is that then? What kind of God would scorch the earth?
Indeed.
A vengeful God. Well, to me, that's not God.
And one issue is that they're talking about their loved ones, and well, yes, and I also have these loved ones. In what way is your love somehow more important than my love?
And they would say that it wasn't. It was just the way the cards were dealt. Like, you just happened to be chosen. Like, one of us would have to sacrifice the other because we were chosen. Because we just so happened to be in this cabin at this time.
And by the way, what was the point of the grasshoppers?
I think
what symbol did they have?
Plague.
I suppose, but weren't they locusts instead of?
Yeah, I know, but I think it was just, to me, first I thought them being trapped in the glass container was like a metaphor for them being trapped in the house. And then maybe what she was writing in her book about, like, were they angry or sad? Like, there are different emotions that she was giving them. Maybe that kind of correlated to the movie. But then they started showing up on the windows, and I was like, okay, I think this is it's analogous to a plague. So that would be my guesstimation on the symbolism of the grasshoppers.
Oh, and we aren't making assumptions about the world at large. We aren't saying that 99% of the world is hateful and bitter.
Yeah, no.
Yes, we're saying that, yes, indeed, there are caring and understanding people, also bitter and hateful people. But the reason why we would choose each other is because, well, even if we were to save the world, what would it be at what cost? What emotional and psychological effect it would have on us, and is that really fair to us? Like that one example of utilitarianism, if you could save the world, but you had to kill this child, and it would then guarantee things like world peace and things like that. Well, is that really fair for the child?
Mm-hmm.
And well, people are thinking, well, the ends justify the means. That's a very problematic way to think.
Mm-hmm.
When you say that you need to do this unjust thing so that things can go on. Exactly how do two wrongs make a right?
Right.
It's something that I have an issue. It's
Right.
one of the themes that I have a problem with this film.
Okay.
It never gives an explanation for that.
Right. And my thing is like, why would the wrong have to happen in the first place for the right to happen?
Exactly.
Yeah. Why would the little kid have to die for the like? Why isn't there another way for there to be world peace? That doesn't seem like a very noble thing. And then if you subscribe it to like the horsemen and this is God, and it's like you're getting into some kind of iffy territory there with that notion. Because wouldn't a God want there to be world peace? Wouldn't a God want there to be? Well, they ate the apple, so like doesn't mean that we can't have world peace.
And as you can see, it was a judgment. Well, if it's a judgment, then only horrible people have something to worry about. Then if it's going to be a just justice. But instead, with this happening, with this sacrifice, basically you are saying to this, whatever it is that's controlling all of this, is saying to each individual human, you have been very naughty and you deserve this punishment, but don't worry, somebody else was punished for what you did.
Yeah.
So you're all right.
Yeah.
What kind of message is that to anyone?
Yeah.
It's an iconic example of injustice. This isn't virtue or righteousness.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And too often it's painted as that.
This isn't even satisfying revenge.
Well, yeah, because nothing changes. The world goes on as it was. So,
Yes.
like, what's the point of that? Like, a lot of the world sucks. So, no, not all of it sucks. I get that. The world will die. Okay. Give me a reason it should go on. Give me, like, valid reasons that one of us should have to kill ourselves in order to save this horrible, mean-spirited, ignorant world that is brainwashed, and a lot of them are just dumb. Just believe anything they're told, anything they're fed, lie after lie. They'll eat it and swallow it and continue the same path of cyclical, dumb, like, just idiocy as we hurtle towards Idiocracy, the movie, at a blinding pace. It would be hard for me to have any empathy for anyone outside of you in this situation.
And as this apocalypse was happening, both the innocent and the wicked, if what these people were saying is true, then actually it seems that this end may not really care whether or not there are guilty and innocent people.
And then why should I, as an innocent person who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, have to die when you're the motivator of all this doesn't care? Like, why should I save the wicked people? Like, I just don't like, why? Why would I want to? You're also saving the good people. Good. But I'm saving them.
Okay.
But I'm saving all these the ones when he said like they don't care. They hate us. Why do I want to save those people? You have to take the bad with the good. But why? Why can't the creator person doing this just target the bad people? Why do you have to target the good people and make me feel guilty into killing myself? And if that makes sense to you, how can you call that God? How is that good and love? And a God wouldn't do that. Well, God is fury. No, that's not God. I'm sorry. If you think God is fury and vengeance and anger, if you're thinking that to sing wherever is causing death and destruction, that sounds a lot like the opposite of God. Well, he created, he can take it away. But why would he want to? If God is love and giving and gave life, why would God want to take it away? Like the whole vengeful God thing and the judgmental God thing and the Republican Jesus thing, it makes no sense. Like you're just recreating the idea of God in your image so that your ideology and your belief structure can have any kind of weight, and it doesn't, because essentially you're rewriting the book. How is that not against God? And why would I want to save you then? Or help whatever's, I'm pointing up, you can't see me, or help whatever's doing all this stuff. So yes, it sounds selfish, and it is. I admit that. But I would rather travel the world. But it'll be dark. Dark is great. It'll be hot and well, no bugs. They'll all be dead too. Cool. Look, I don't see the downside in me and you traveling the world together forever. I don't see the downside. I'm sorry. Makes me a monster. And will make you a murderer. No, it doesn't. I did not make that choice. It was put upon me. The entity or whatever that is doing all this is the murderer. So let's not deflect blame here. I got given an impossible choice that was not so impossible for me because the world has done nothing in my eyes to redeem itself that I should take my life or you should take your life when the punishment they said for us sounded like paradise. Immortality, get to be with Justin for the rest of eternity, but walk the earth. We'll get boring. You don't know us. You don't know us. I can easily say we would not get bored. So feel free, as always, to roast us in the comments. But yeah, the world is doomed. And if someone else is in that choice, and we wouldn't know. But if the apocalypse was happening and somewhere off in wherever there was a couple in a cabin with their daughter, and they chose themselves, fair play. I would not hate them for that. I wouldn't. I'd be like, okay, I like 100% admit that. Like, I would understand their point of view.
And it would actually be of much more merit because it would have been of their volition. It was more willful.
Yes. Yeah.
Like instead of compelling someone to do something against their will, that doesn't really have much of a noble motive behind
which
it.
Is why it's hard for me to pin it on something like a god-like deity, which is supposed to be noble, the most noble thing. It's like it's a guilt trip. Like, to me, this just feels more like sinister, more devilish of a notion. Like the devil would do this for fun. It'd be a trick to play on humanity. Sacrifice yourself, or the world dies. I'm going to sit back and rub my hooves together. And if that's what you believe is going to happen, then what do you actually believe? Like, what? Because you're calling that God. Then what is your God exactly?
It really puts a limit on the deity if you say that in order for this is going to happen, and it's going to be this thing's desire, but it will be halted if this thing happens. So are they saying that somehow these three people are somehow more powerful than this deity in that they can stop it from doing what it wants to do?
Yeah.
And whereas I would say that if this being really wanted this to happen, it's going to happen and nothing is going to stand in its way.
Or if this being wanted to stop it, it just could.
Indeed.
Why do one of us have to die? Why? Well, I had visions. Good for you. But why? Like, we would drive them crazy just by, like, philosophically talking about the entire situation. Like, explain to us in a way that makes sense.
And it seems like an extremely important thing. Wouldn't we be told things more directly through prophecy if this were such a very grave and
no, I don't think so.
Very heavy decision that instead of going through these middle people, how about if we be the prophets themselves?
And no. I think it's kind of like that virgin sacrifice kind of thing. If we don't see the visions or see what's going on, we don't have the foresight. So our minds are more pure from the coming storms. That kind of thing. So yeah, before I go to the notes, I will give them this. Like, it's problematic for you more than me, but I see, like, my decision was made. Once I realized what was going on, I'm like, nah, my decision was made. Sorry, world. Smash that dislike button. But at least Shyamalan and company made a movie that has some depth to it. We can have this kind of discussion. And they're characters that we can put ourselves in the place of because we can identify with them. It was a refreshing point of view. And one I appreciated because even if it had been your heteronormative couple with their son or daughter, and we were like, okay, we're going to put ourselves in this couple's shoes, I still would have made the same choice. But it was just cool to get that view of their story and flashbacks, and just like, yeah, this is just a little glimpse of what it's like, what some gay people go through. Some go through better experiences. A lot of us go through a lot worse experiences, and how it can shape you, and how it shaped that one guy's anger and like just vengeance, you know. So yeah, that's why I did appreciate that. So yeah,
And it wasn't because you mentioned a build up of anger. It wasn't because of, well, because bad things happened to you. Does that mean bad things should happen to other people? No, no, no,
no,
no.
yeah,
That's
no.
what you're saying, is that it gave him perspective.
Yes, yes,
He's not saying that I lived a miserable life, so everyone else's life should be miserable. That's not what he was. That was not his way of thinking.
yeah. I like in putting myself in his shoes. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I get to wield the judgment hammer, yay. No, it's just more like I'm choosing you. It was a combination of me choosing you because of my love for you, and the like this is what happens after the apocalypse hits just sounded fantastic as far as we go. Versus give me a solid explanation other than this religious mumbo jumbo. Oh, it's happening. Okay. But give me the why. Well, you were chosen. Okay, give me the why. And then the why would like everything we do, everything we've already talked about. You know, why would this being do this, and why not just stop, and why make it happen, and why does this have to happen? So if you said in the beginning would be the crux of my decision to say no. You're gonna have to give me more than God wants you to do it. Well, if God wants me to do it, God can personally come talk to me and tell me, like, hey, you tell me why.
Exactly.
And give me more than I saw a figure in the reflection of the light in the picture.
It could mean anything
You had
that
a
you want it to
concussion.
mean.
You had a concussion.
And yes, there's also that.
So that's where I'm coming from before you get too angry with my line of thinking. It would just be, I can't take that at face value. I can't. I grew up with religious zealotry. I grew up with hearing people speak tongues and throw themselves on the floor and all that, all the acting and endorphin rush that comes with that side of religious stuff. And it's scary and it's not healthy. And to me, that's not like a vessel of God. That's a vessel of insanity. And I'm sorry if that offends you, but I'm just trying to give you perspective in that for you to come to me and say, do these things, and every time you say no, one of us has to kill ourselves. Okay, let's sit down and have a talk. Let's have a talk about that. It's already begun, but you're not dead yet. Let's have a talk about that. You know, so it would be a hard sell for me, other than flipping the TV on and trying the guilt trips.
Yes, there's always a crisis.
Yeah, like immediately after, let's say I killed myself. Let's say if I finally had a change of heart, it's like, you know what, it's fine. You know, you take care of our daughter and just remember me and honor my memory and sacrifice, even though no one will know I did it and no one will care. Within seconds of doing that, someone somewhere in the world is going to rape someone, rob someone, kill someone, just do something horrible. And I know there's like people everywhere doing good, but it goes by that notion of like, why do I have to save the bad people too? Well, that's just, you know, it's not a fair choice. No, it's not. If it's not a fair choice, then why should I have to make an unfair choice? That's not fair to me. If you're forcing the choice upon me, we're going to talk about it. And these things are going to be talked about. Like, it's going to take more than the TV news reports and guilt trips to.
I can pretty much guarantee you that between now and 1 year from now, somewhere in the world, there's going to be a natural disaster or a bad economic situation. And
there's going to be something within a minute of me killing myself to save you and our daughter.
And you first heard it here.
All right, let's go to my notes before I dig a hole any deeper.
Phillip's notes.
So when the intro was playing, I was asked when showing like the papers and all the drawings and stuff. I wrote, "Is he giving away the plot in the intro?" Kinda, but also kinda no. So I appreciate that he wasn't like foreshadowing the plot. I found some of the framing of the shots to be awkward, and a lot of the focus they were doing between Andrew and Eric. It took me a minute to get used to. It was very off-putting at first. And that's a nitpick, but I wrote it down. And then the people come and they're trying to like, let us in and it's all this stuff. And they're trying to call 911. And they're like, sorry, we had to cut the phone lines. I was like, well, at least they're like polite intruders. They say, we're normal people just like you. Like, the hell you are? It's not normal. Because everything that the one guy said, the non-concussed one, I was like, that's what I was thinking. I was like, that would have been me. Like, you would have been the more calm, reserved one. And I still don't think you would have like saw a vision or a figure in a reflection and then went that route. I think we would have been pretty.
I'm too objective for that.
Yeah. It goes back to our like, why doesn't Justin talk more video we did. I'm the more outspoken one.
I simply happen to like being a silent observer.
Exactly.
And analyze it in my head.
But in this situation, if we were tied up with these 4 people, I would be the one running my mouth. I would be like, hey, I know who you are. It would be me. If we had to cast ourselves in the movie, that would be me. Now, if we were in a bar and someone's like, hey, you guys are talking too loud, you know what, forget, let's just leave. Like, I'm not in the mood to deal with this crap. Passive, let's just go. I wouldn't have been like, take your drunk ass and go back there or whatever. Wouldn't have said that. I'm not somebody for escalation. But if I'm pushed, especially if you're involved and you're at risk, then yeah, the claws are going to come out. So I definitely would have been that guy. And a lot of what he said is what I was writing and thinking, as I said earlier. So yeah. And then the notion of our choices make our destiny. I was like, well, that's depressing if you think about it. It's true, but I guess, but
not all of it, but some of it.
Yeah. It's like, I'm glad I met you, but I wish things were different. Then I wrote 4 crazy people, all crazy in the same way. Then they brought that up later when he was bringing the whole like echo chamber and the whole like being suggestible and stuff up. So then I wrote, they just killed someone. They killed Redmond or O'Bannon. And that had to be so intense for them. They just murdered someone because they felt they had to. And then they show the tsunami stuff and then turns the TV off and goes back to talk to them. And I thought, if that's proof, keep the TV on. That's when I thought maybe it was like pre-recorded. It was a feed. Like you have to, okay, we stop it now because there's no more recorded yet. Because they kept checking their watches.
Suspicious.
Yes. Then the notion of trust in something more than you. And I said, no, thank you. No, thank you.
It's a very romantic situation. Because after all, yes, you could do this and save the world, but what would be life without you?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like the trust in something more than you. What's more than me is our relationship, our love. So I would be trusting in us.
What kind of life would we have if we had to give up each other?
Yeah.
And then live the rest of our lives without each other? That doesn't seem like a very precious life worth living.
Yeah, exactly. And then the one lady who said she had a kid said that she had a vision of her holding her son while he was burning. And I thought, and I would have said this to her, how did you hold him while he was burning if you're the next to die? If you're the next to die, you're not going back there to be with him because you can't hold him because you are dead. There's a paradox here.
Indeed.
I would have been Mr. Paradox. I would have been Mr. like, prove to me beyond what you're saying and visions and like, go get your drawings, go get all your stuff. You better bring a mountain of evidence.
Yes.
Other than a TV show that you turn off at the right time and these stories, which could be anything.
Yes, and if, that vision ended up not coming true, well, what about all these other ones?
Yeah.
How flawed are they?
Yeah.
Why is one more merit than the other?
Yeah, like it's cool that we really didn't have much backstory on how they met, but also been kind of cool to get it'd been cool to get a prequel to this of how they met and how it started. Like I would not be opposed to that. Like a part 2, but the part 2 is the prequel. Because I think that would be really fascinating how they all converged on this one spot, and then it ends with them parking on that road and getting out of the truck. And that's the end of the movie. I think that'd be cool. I think there's enough lore in this universe so they could do something like that. Then I wrote, what happens when it's down to 1? Well, we found out. And then the idea that they had to like kill each other because then a portion of humanity would be judged. I was like, well, don't kill them. Don't release the plague. All four of us, let's just sit here. If you don't die, does the plague not get released then? Does that part of humanity not get judged then? Explain to me the rules of your crazy talk. There's so many like loopholes you could find. Like they would not want to. Like I'm telling you, they would not want to talk to us about it. They would not want to spend like a day and a half trying to convince us to kill each other. We would drive them bonkers with our. Well, there's this paradox. I want to explain this. What about this?
They had to kill each other because they couldn't kill themselves, but yet the last one was able to.
Yeah.
Does that mean that the sacrifice, one of them could have sacrificed themselves? No, it needs to be done to the other. But then this one person, there's no consistency here.
And then I wrote new shows recorded. So I was like, this is because I was waiting for it's a Shyamalan movie, so I was waiting for a twist. Which thankfully, no twist. Thank you. I think he needs to get away from that. Make suspenseful movies, but I think the twist thing kind of shackled him for a long time because people were expecting it. Just make films, which is what he's doing now. Well, this is what I did with this one, because Old kind of had a twist, and the other one with the grandparents had a twist. So yeah, do more movies like this where there's no twist. Then I wrote, just shoot him and get it over with. Blah blah blah. Just I'm not listening to you anymore, Batista. And then they're talking about their visions, and then when they said the screaming, I was like, remember that dream I had about the Reaper virus?
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I remember from that dream is the screaming of the people dying. I was like, oh no, what if I'm one of the horsemen? Anyone out there listening, did you have a dream about a virus that ransacked the world? It's called the Reaper virus, and it made all the fluids in your body boil at once, and you die just from like them excreting from every orifice in your body. Blood, saliva, feces, just anything that had liquid to it would just boil, and you would die within minutes. But it was like an airborne virus. So you could spread it through like liquids. So I remember me and you were walking down the street, and we saw the first person in our town affected with it, and they like ran out and just screamed, and they just like fell to the ground and just like, and just the screaming is what I will never forget it. Just the screams they had as they were dying. So when he was talking about the screams, I was just like, oh no, I don't want to be a horseman. I don't want to have to kill myself and or have 3 other people potentially kill me. It doesn't sound fun. And then I wrote, they did say it would just be the 3 of them alone. I could deal with that. I don't like people. I like being alone. I like being with you. Like this is win-win for us, especially for me. But I did like they're the 4 horsemen. Thought that was cool. I was like, okay, that's pretty neat. But instead of being like pestilence, death, famine, they were good things. They were like good horsemen. I did like that part. And then the one guy says, they're not worth it. They hate us. I was like, yep. This is so relatable. Thank you. And then I wrote, what are the odds that it was O'Bannon? Like, just the odds of that were pretty astounding. And then I wrote, good. No twist ending. Yay. And that's all for my notes. Anything else are for my patrons over on Patreon. So yeah, I didn't, like, for a Shyamalan movie, I was entertained. I thought it was, pretty straightforward. I was waiting for the stupid twist. There wasn't one as said, so I was happy about that. And there's a lot here to chew on, about society and the role one could play in it, and fairness, and God, and judgment, and the balance of it all. So I think it dealt with some really interesting notions. Obviously, we've been talking for a while in real time. Usually I come away from a Shyamalan movie like, all right, this one? Not bad. And Batista, once again, is probably the best wrestler turned actor that we've ever had. He's just great. I commend him for picking the roles he does, because he does things that are very challenging, and I can respect that. It's not like The Rock making the same damn movie over and over and over. Ugh. Or like jumping into other people's franchises and somehow getting successful off of that. Nah, he's making his own way. I respect the hell out of that. All right, we've rattled on long enough, and if you're still listening, you're probably like, you won't save me. Turn off. Nah, I'm gonna listen to this. Click. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add about this movie?
No.
All right. I would give it a 6 out of 10. which is good for a Shyamalan movie.
Yes, I thought of it as so. There were some merits, some problems with it, so I suppose I would give it a C.
Okay. I do numbers, he does grades. Very good. All right. That's going to wrap this one up. As always, I don't have a fancy outro. So I'll simply say thank you for listening. And we'll talk to you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.
I love that you waved to the microphone. That's so cute.
Maybe they can hear the wave, feel the wave.
There you go. That's your catchphrase. Feel the wave. Please like, share, and subscribe. I've been told I should say that a lot more, but I'm really awkward when it comes to selling myself. I think I make a really bad prostitute. I'm not good at keeping tempo.